Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the SHICHIDA Shining Stars podcast, a podcast where we address all the questions parents have about early childhood education. My name is Mr. Dan. With me today is a very special guest, the Marketing Content Manager for SHICHIDA Australia, Angelique Rosa-Bartolone. Hi, Angie.
Hi, Dan.
Angie is here to talk to us today about reading and writing. So she's going to give us a few useful tips to get your kids started on their journey towards being a really good reader and writer. So, Angie, in your opinion, what do you think is the best time to get your kids involved in reading and writing?
Oh, Dan, that's a great question. And this is a topic that's very close to my heart. I'm an avid reader and writer. So let's just jump right in. Basically, you can start introducing letters when your baby is a few months old, as their brain is ready and eager to learn. Look, children are naturally drawn to letters from a very young age, and they will happily engage with activities that focus on letters, especially when paired with music and other interactive elements. So, short answer, the best time to start was probably yesterday, and the next best time is today. No, really, the sooner the better. But one tip, with babies, you should use high contrast shapes and letters. I suggest also starting with uppercase letters first because it's easier for them to focus on these. And then for toddlers, you can use a wide range of bright colors. But with babies, you want to focus on using large, bold, black and white letters or high contrast letters and colors.
Yeah, those are great tips, Angie. Do you have any other tips on how parents can kind of introduce letters to their babies?
Oh, yes. You can introduce babies to letters through things like alphabet books, toys, nursery decorations. This will help familiarize them with the shapes of letters from an early age. Obviously, as they grow and develop, you can continue to incorporate these letters into the environment using songs and games. For example, you can include, let's say, singing and dancing to the alphabet song into your daily routine, and you can stick colorful alphabet posters to the walls. The most important thing is keeping it simple and keeping it fun.
I see. Okay. So the first stage of learning to read and write is letter recognition.
That's right. Yes.
And we can kind of teach them this through showing them the letters and singing songs and things like that. Could you just kind of give us a brief breakdown on how kids learn to read and write? Like, what is the general learning progression?
This typically involves a few key stages. Like you mentioned, letter recognition is the first stage, when kids start learning to associate each letter with its sound and shape. Again, I will repeat myself and suggest starting with the uppercase letters when you're helping your child with letter recognition. Once children are comfortable with recognizing and identifying the uppercase letters, lowercase letters can be introduced. After this, you will typically move on to letter writing, where children begin practicing writing their letters. But here I will beg you, parents, please be patient and reward your child's efforts. Keep in mind that they are mastering a good pencil grip, and this is a completely different skill that they must also learn alongside learning the letters.
What age do you think this is when they start kind of trying to write letters?
Oh, kids will start at different periods of development. They'll start with scribbling when they're much younger.
Okay.
Even that, you should reward the effort. They won't make legible letters at that stage. It will be scribbles, and they will be very proud and go, look what I wrote, and, praise that effort and be like, oh, that's amazing. They will eventually progress as they get older, and as your introduction to letters with them starts bearing fruit, they will start making more legible letters as they go.
Okay. So even that's a part of it, just the scribbling aspect.
It is, even the scribbles. And that's wonderful because you know that your child is starting to show an interest in trying to write. So that's fantastic. I'm always excited when I see the scribbles and I think, oh yes, this child's interested in writing. Love it. So after that, we will move on to something slightly more tricky, and that's the phonics. Now, phonics are important because they teach children the relationship between letters and their sounds. English is a complex and a tricky language, the alphabet, because one letter may have two or more sounds associated with it. For example, the letter C. We all think C is a K, and in many cases it is. C makes the hard K sound like you hear in the word cat, but it can also make a soft sound like here in the word city.
Okay.
So it's learning these little phonetic rules that can take some time with children. Again, I would say just start with the easier ones, gradually work up. It's not a race. Don't put pressure. Just keep it fun, keep it simple.
So when parents practice phonics with their kids, to start off with, should they be starting with the hard sounds or the soft sounds? So are they practicing cat, or are they practicing city?
That with the letter C, for example, you would start with the cat because that's the most common phonetic sound that the C would make. So start with the most common sounds first.
Okay.
Because all of these are rules in English and rules with letters. Oh, if a C is followed with a certain other vowel, it will make another sound. That gets very complex. So for young ones, keep it simple. Stick to the most common sounds that letters make. And then you can add the rules as you go and introduce them to other sounds that letters can make also.
Right. Okay.
After that, we'll move to combining phonics to reading simple words. This is where kids start decoding simple words by sounding out letters and then blending them together. They will rely on applying the skills they learned through learning their phonics at this stage. And then after that, of course, we have to introduce sight words as well. This is very important because these words don't follow phonetic rules. So kids need to actually learn these by heart. Examples are words like I, and, the, and so on. And this really improves reading fluency. So here you would just start by introducing a few at a time and just work up your reading stamina and identification of these words as you go.
Nice. Okay. So to summarize, first we start off with letter recognition and letter writing, and then moving on to phonics. First the simple phonics and then combined phonics.
Yes.
And then eventually practicing sight words as well.
Yes, correct.
Okay, beautiful. So we've talked a little bit on how parents can practice letter recognition. So the first stage of reading and writing by using, big visual letters, colorful letters, and also songs to kind of input these to their babies.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about phonics. So we mentioned that there are a couple of different kinds of phonics. Could you recommend some ways that parents can kind of get started with practicing phonics with their kids?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Practicing phonics with toddlers can really be a lot of fun. This is actually one of my favorite things to do when I was raising my own kids and teaching them phonics, because you can really make this very engaging. So firstly, it's important to be mindful and model the correct pronunciation of phonic sounds. You want to use clear and exaggerated articulation to help your kids see and hear the sounds that you are making, especially with the younger kids like babies and the young toddlers. You want to encourage toddlers to watch your mouth movements closely as you pronounce the different sounds. You can then also ask them to replicate the sounds. Keep it playful and silly. Exaggerate your facial expressions, use silly voices. If you can make your kids giggle and have a good time, they will gladly follow what you say and repeat after you, and they will learn through this experience. Visual aids are great. I love flashcards, picture books. This helps to reinforce the connection between sounds and letters in a really fun way. And of course, reading together is a great strategy too. Reading aloud to toddlers from phonics-based books that emphasize letter sounds and phonetic patterns. You can point out the letters as you read. You can encourage your kids to repeat the sounds with you. And this is great quality time that you can spend together with your kids.
100%. So it's all about kind of connecting the visual representation of the letter to the sound that it makes, and also how your mouth looks when you're making that sound, right?
Yes, very much. And repetition is so important, Dan. Repetition is important. You must practice regularly and be patient and provide positive reinforcement. Always.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I always have parents telling me that, they try reading with their kids, but their kids aren't super interested in it. And I ask them, like, what are you reading? And they're like, oh, we've tried this book and this book and this book and this book. And I go, okay, maybe try sticking with one book first and just repeating the same book over and over again. Some parents might think that the kids get bored by reading the same book over and over again together, but actually the more familiar they get with it, right? Like, the more confident they are and the more they want to continue trying to read that book, right?
Absolutely, Dan, especially if it's a book that they're really interested in. You can continue reading that book for as many days as it takes. Your child will signal when they're finished with that book. Every time you read the book, you are learning. So for adults, that might feel a little bit boring, but every time you are even practicing memorization. through reading repeated material. There are so many things that's happening in the brain through repetition. So yes, repetition is great, and you've really hit the nail on the head there.
And you mentioned making sure to practice the correct pronunciation of the letters. So this can be a bit tricky because, obviously as adults, we see letters and all of the sounds that these letters can make. But when we're initially starting to practice, we really want to make sure that we're making sure that the letter C is pronounced as K, the letter B is pronounced as B, right? So
correct.
We've actually got a video on our website, I believe, that teaches the correct pronunciation for these letters. So I'll put that link in the description of this episode if you guys want to check it out, linked below. But thank you, Angie, for your phonics tips.
Oh, pleasure.
Let's move on to sight words then. So sight words is the next stage once your kids are kind of able to sound out their phonics and know that cat, when you put them together, that says the word cat, right?
Correct.
But sight words are a little bit different, right?
Yes, they are. So there's many ways to practice sight words, but I will touch on some of the ways that I use at home with my own kids that I know work from experience. And that's always going back to reading together. Reading time is great. They contain a lot of frequently used sight words, and you can encourage your child to identify and read the sight words as you encounter them in the text.
Okay.
Yeah, you can create flashcards with sight words printed on them, and then you can review that regularly with your child. That can be great fun. You can make games using sight words. For example, you can print out and create a memory matching game using sight words, starting with simple words and adding more as your child masters the ones that you are practicing. And write sight words using fun ways. For example, you could use chalk to write on the sidewalk, or create a sand tray, letting your child write on the tray using their finger or a stick. This is very engaging. Kids love doing this. And then I always recommend creating a word wall at home, sticking the sight words that you are practicing on a wall where your child can easily see them. And then every day, let your child read and give them a little reward for identifying the words, something small like a sticker. Kids love collecting stickers. It really makes them feel like they are achieving and, reaching their goal. Maybe you can have a goal. How many stickers would you like to collect this week?
Right.
Help them reach that goal. These strategies work really well, but you do need to remain patient.
I see. Yeah. We're rewarding the effort rather than the result.
Yes, exactly. Because you want to not make it feel like a chore. It needs to remain fun. The second it becomes a chore, your child will be resistant. I just want to mention, it's very important to not overwhelm your child with a list of 100 words. Because if you Google this, you will find a list with 100 words of sight words your child needs to know. Forget about that. Start with 5 to 10 words initially, and gradually, depending on your child's age, gradually introduce additional sight words in very small increments. Don't overwhelm them.
That makes a lot of sense. And I love that you've kind of connected the reading and the writing elements together, because obviously they do go hand in hand, but writing offers like a tactile approach to sight words, right?
Yes.
Once your child is able to identify and read a sight word, getting them to also write the sight word, will solidify that memory even further in their mind.
Correct. Yes.
And yeah, definitely start off with a few, not 100. Do you have a recommendation as to which word they can, start with?
Oh, the hot favorites are always I, was, on, is. Those are very simple, short little words. Start with those. You will find those words in most of the text for younger readers. And then when you find them in the reading material, point them out to your child. Let them read. And then again, applaud them for recognizing a word. I is a really simple one. That should be your first one to start with. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Angie. Reading and writing obviously is super important, but I find that through conversations with parents, it is often reading and writing where they have a little bit of a hard time getting their kids into it and getting their kids interested in reading and writing. Do you have any tips as to how parents can get their children more interested in reading?
Oh, absolutely. There are many ways to do this, but reading together is the ultimate strategy that bears fruit. Nothing works better than this. And let me explain what I mean. You have to make reading time a special time. You have to prioritize this time above all else. It doesn't matter how your day was or how tired you are, how many things you have to do. reading time should be non-negotiable, and this will be something that you should commit to for a few years. This is not a short-term strategy. When you create a routine and you follow through with it while your child is little, and you're cuddling up before bedtime, and you're reading aloud to your child, this will create a fondness that relates to reading time that will always stay with them throughout your whole life. Reading time will be a fond memory and a fond time, not a chore. So start when they're a baby. Start with simple texture books or simple nursery rhymes or alphabet books. When your child is a toddler, let them choose their own books. Offer them 3 or 4 choices. Don't get frustrated or worried if your child wants to hear the same story over and over. Like we said, repetition is great. You should always choose books that cater to their interests to keep them engaged and let them participate. Let them turn pages, point out pictures, answer any questions they might have, or you could even ask them questions. Oh, what do you think is going to happen? What would you do? If your child says they don't know, you can answer the question and go, oh, I would do this and that. Be silly. Be fun. And then you can model to your child how to answer questions relating to content of books. And also take your child to the library. Let them pick books. Encourage them to try new books and show them that reading is good by also taking out your own books. Show them reading is fun. They look at you and they model your behavior and your attitude towards things.
I love your suggestion of having a conversation with your child about the books that they read. Yeah, it's a really good way to get an insight into what is going on in their mind as well, and get them to exercise a bit of creativity, right?
Exactly. And this is great because I often find myself thinking that reading time is actually great for my son's mental health. He's 11 and we still do reading time together to this day since he was a baby. And it's both of our favorite time of the day. It's 30 minutes that we set aside before sleep time. He reads his book, I read my book. But a lot of time it starts a conversation where he's reading something, where a character is going through something, and then he'll start asking me very deep questions, philosophical questions, and we will have very interesting discussions, which I feel would never have started if it wasn't for reading time together. And, my son's reading lexile is off the charts, and he has such a love for reading, and it is because we've been doing this since he was a baby, because reading time is a fond time and a comforting time for him. And I really think that this strategy works. It's the same for me. I am a passionate bibliophile. That is a cool word for a literature nerd because it's the same thing I've been... Yay! Bookworms are great because I've been reading since I was a baby with my parents too. And it pays off. This is a strategy that works.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Angie, and for all of your useful tips. Yeah.
Oh, thanks for having me, Dan.
All good. Reading and writing is something that a lot of kids struggle with and a lot of parents struggle with teaching. So I'm sure everybody has found your tips really handy.
Oh, I hope so, Dan.
But remember, everybody, your baby is learning and absorbing information from day one, so it's never too early to start supporting their learning. The SHICHIDA program is a weekly 50-minute learning program using fun brain-boosting techniques for children aged 0 to 9. Each class accelerates your child's development by providing the vital elements for them to thrive and excel. For more information on how the SHICHIDA program has been helping parents and kids get an early start on education, visit www.shichida.com.au. You can enter the coupon code FUN50 to receive a 50% discount on your first lesson. Alternatively, you can follow us on Instagram at SHICHIDA Australia. You can join our Facebook group to be part of the conversation, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel to get instant access to a wealth of parenting and early childhood education videos. And also join us next week on our SHICHIDA Shining Stars podcast as we go through some helpful tips to improve your child's memory. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you again, Angie, for joining us.
Lovely to be here.
Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.